Welcome to Behind the Brand segment of Conversational Currency, where we tell the story behind the success of today's cutting-edge thought and business leaders. Today's topic of discussion is the entrepreneur within. As the world evolves, knowledge and experience have morphed into a form of valuable currency, and the transition of where we work to doing what we love is an internal dialogue that we all have, and there is no better individual to discuss this subject with than my featured guest today, who is none other than Dorie Clark. Dorie, how are you?
I am great, Shadeed. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
Yes. Now, for my audience, I want to take a moment to walk through your resume so that my audience is aware of the level of insight that they are about to receive. This is not the average conversation. So Dorie's books have been translated into 7 languages. Dorie is an adjunct professor of business administration at Fuqua School of Business at Duke University, author of the #1 leadership book of 2015 by Inc. and top 10 business books of the year by Forbes. Dorie is an advisor for powerhouses such as Google, Microsoft, and the World Bank, and is world-renowned as a consultant and expert at self-reinvention and helping others make profound changes in their lives. Now, Dorie, on this platform, my audience is always hungry for understanding the why behind the what in terms of what the great ones do and accomplish. So what I love about your approach to entrepreneurship is that you are relentlessly consistent. There is an underlying driving force that separates you from those who I would consider to be your peers. What would you consider to be the key difference that determines successful effort versus busy work for entrepreneurs?
Well, one of the things, Shadeed, that I do that I think has contributed to my success is that it's very easy for people to feel a little bit overwhelmed by all the things that they could do, and therefore to create a to-do list or goals where it's like 10 goals, right? And I believe really strongly you can't rationally be pursuing all of those things at the same time. And so I'm very methodical, and I've been doing this for a number of years, about choosing no more than 2 goals to pursue at a time. And, of course, there's stuff that has to happen in between. I mean, yes, you have to respond to emails so people don't hate you. And that's not a goal. It's just something you have to do. But in terms of like a strategic focus and something where you're really going to put a lot of effort in, I usually pick a 6-month period to focus on them, and then come up. Sometimes I re-up them, and so we'll do them for a year, but I will pick them for 6 months at a time. And so at various points, I have focused on things like reaching out to business schools so I could start doing more adjunct teaching, or finding new business publications that I could blog for, or writing a new book, or then after that launching a new book. Right now, in fact, of course, as we're speaking, I've just launched my newest book, Entrepreneurial You. And so I really set aside for the latter half of 2017 my sole focus. This is actually the only goal for this half of the year, is just launching Entrepreneurial You successfully. So like everybody else, I like to do a lot of things. I like variety. I have a lot of different goals, but I'm relatively patient about pursuing only 1 or 2 at a time, and then saying, you know what, the other stuff is great, but I'm gonna kick it down the road and do that later.
Okay, now we're going to veer into the cubicles in boardrooms of corporate America. Dorie, what are some of the biggest changes that you observed personally in today's world of work?
Well, obviously, one of the big changes that I've seen, and that probably most of your listeners have seen, is essentially the changing social contract that employees and employers have over the past 20 years. We all know that there used to be, in many fields and in many companies, a kind of implicit lifetime contract that people would have, and that has really changed over the past 20 years. And as a result, there's more mobility, there's more turnover, there's more job change. And the result of that is that corporations are not investing as much in wanting to develop their employees, because, it's a rational response. They feel like, well, if they're leaving, then we're just training them for the competition. What that means, it's leaving a void, because if we, as individual professionals are waiting for someone to train us or to educate us, you're going to be waiting a long time, and it means that your skills are going to get out of date pretty fast. What we really need to realize, whether you are already self-employed or you work for a company, is that you are responsible for your own professional development. You have to take that into your own hands and ask yourself, what do I need to learn? What is the best and fastest way for me to gain that information so that I can stay current and hopefully gain skills to continue advancing? You have to basically come up with your own program, your own personal development program. And I think the faster that we get acclimated to that idea, the more we can take control over our careers rather than just letting things happen to us.
Excellent point. Now, in your new book, Entrepreneurial You, you mentioned in the chapter, Build Your Brand, that understanding what you're uniquely qualified to share as far as the a topic. What is your approach to determining that it factor that separates a professional from their peers?
Well, one of the best ways as you're sort of figuring out what your thing is and what you might want to offer is actually to take a look at things that people are already coming to you for. I think sometimes people feel like it's this mysterious process, like, how do I find my thing? But the truth is, in a lot of cases, your thing is already sort of staring you in the face. And I'll give you an example. In my book, Entrepreneurial You, I profile a guy named Bozi Dar, who he was born in Serbia, now lives in the US. And his original idea, now he works inside a company. He has a very successful job with a life sciences company, but he was interested in kind of entrepreneurial side ventures. And so his first idea was, I'll start an app. And so he created an app. He spent a lot of time, he spent a lot of money, and it was like totally not successful. It was kind of sad, actually. So he sort of went back with his tail between his legs, and he realized, like, he made a mistake, which a lot of people do, which is that he thought it was cool, but he didn't test it with anybody. He didn't actually talk to any potential customers, and the potential customers were like, meh, and so no one bought it. But later, as he was realizing this and kind of nursing his wounds, he realized something else, which is that people were already coming to him looking for a particular kind of advice and expertise. He had done a really good job being successful with getting promoted. Like, he was getting promoted really fast at work. His career was very clearly on the rise. And so all kinds of these people were coming to him and saying, like, what are you doing? What's your secret? How are you getting promoted so much? And he realized, like, this is actually what it feels like when people want something. They're seeking you out. They're asking. And so he realized that could be something. So he created a second entrepreneurial side venture. This one was an online course specifically about how to get promoted faster. And he put that out there. It became immediately successful. Within the first quarter, he made about $25,000. Within the first year, he made $106,000 on the side from this course. So I think starting with what people in your circle already are asking you about is not a bad way to do things.
Excellent point. Now, continuing down the path of Entrepreneurial You, in the Courage to Monetize, you tell a brilliant story about how you had to deal with the awkward yet direct question of, what do you charge from your first year of business in 2006? How can solopreneurs better understand what they do, as well as its results, and overcome the fear and challenge of charging rates that will ultimately sustain their business?
Yeah, this is such an important question because, of course, one of the places that's hardest for people who are starting entrepreneurial ventures, whether it's full-time or part-time, is figuring out what to charge. Because, of course, when you're coming from a background as an employee, you're just, they're just telling you, like, here's the deal, here's what you're getting paid, and all the other stuff kind of gets figured out for you. So when you're feeling your own way, it can be really intimidating because you want to get paid something you think is fair, but you also don't want to, like, alienate your customers and have them run screaming because you picked a number that's too high. So there's a few things that I would suggest to keep in mind here. So number one, this is where it is incredibly useful to begin building a social network of people who are doing similar things. Sometimes what's scary about pricing is that we really feel like we're just shooting in the dark. We're just making things up because we have no idea. But so if you can really consciously cultivate making a network of fellow professionals who can give you honest advice about this, that is enormously helpful. Now, some people might say, well, why would your competitors give you information? And so first of all, I want to say, the right people to build relationships with don't consider themselves your competitors. You're not really competing against anyone else. You're competing against yourself, frankly. That's how mature people think of it.
Yeah.
But number two, online, right? You could join an online community of whatever it is you do, let's say graphic designers. And, so great. It's not like it's somebody in your town or whatever. It's people from all over the world. I mean, yeah, I guess broadly they're your competitors, but, if I'm in Los Angeles and you're in Baltimore, it's not like you're brushing up against each other. It doesn't really harm anyone for you to tell me what you're charging for a particular project or what an hourly rate might be. So getting that information really helps you be better informed about market conditions. And the second thing that's very valuable to do is to make sure that you understand what the project is, like what it means to the customer. This is something the author Alan Weiss has written about this really well. He uses the phrase value-based pricing, but it's a very different thing if you're speaking to a lunch and learn of interns, like 10 interns, as compared to you're keynoting a corporate retreat for the company's top 100 VPs in Aspen, right? I mean, it might be like, they're both an hour, so maybe I should charge $200 for both of them. No, it matters a lot more that you are keynoting the VP gathering rather than giving a quick talk to the interns. And so just understanding the context and what might be reasonable within that context is important.
Yes. Now, you mentioned networks, and this is a very important topic, especially for my audience. Networking is a topic that is mentioned and referred to at every level of business. But in Entrepreneurial You, my take is that you make the distinction between attending networking events versus the process of developing your initial market, which is the next level of networking. How can a professional who is clueless about this process and how to more or less herd all energy in a specific direction, how can they begin to assemble the building blocks towards developing their initial market?
Yeah, so I think it's a great point, because the reason so many people go to networking events is that they don't really know that there are other ways to network. It's almost like when people hear networking, they think, it has to be this type of thing. It has to be a chamber of commerce mixer with 100 people standing around kind of awkwardly trading business cards. And, depending on the type of business you have, maybe that's useful, but oftentimes those gatherings are very random, right? It's not necessarily your audience. It's not necessarily the people you should be connecting with anyway. It's just kind of like a random collection of human beings. And so it might feel like you're doing something like, hey, I'm networking, I'm helping my business. But in actuality, you're sort of wasting your time because it's such a diffuse effort. Like, maybe you could strike gold, but also maybe not. So instead, I think it's really important to be much more targeted about your networking. So first of all, it's useful to ask yourself, well, what types of people would be most useful for me to meet? And so you can make lists of the people who might be good potential clients and also good referral sources. So this could be specific names of people if you know them, but it's helpful if you say, well, you know what, the person who is my buyer is a VP of human resources. That would be my buyer. And so therefore it's like, you know what, there might be one of those people at a random mixer, but if you instead are like, how can I get to speak at an HR conference? Then you're going to be in a room of VPs of human resources who might be buyers. So that's a lot better of an investment for you. The other thing to keep in mind is actually understanding what works best for you personally with regard to networking, meaning what types of events are most fun? How do you connect better with people? Some people are really great one-on-one, but they don't like large group events. Other people like to do something while they network. So maybe it's not like let's have coffee. Maybe it would be more fun for you if you invite people to like play in your pickup basketball game or something that you do. That can be a form of networking. So it's really figuring out what is comfortable and enjoyable for you on an ongoing basis.
Yes, excellent points. Networking has a wide range of outcomes, and targeting it towards your interests is of great importance. Let's transition into public speaking. I love your breakdown of Clark's Law of public speaking, which I'll explain to my audience, which is number one, at first, no one is interested in your speaking ability. Number two, then they're interested if you'll speak for free. Number three would be eventually they're interested if they can get you for cheap. And to wrap things up, finally, they intend on or having you, they're interested, and they'll pay you what you're worth, which is the holy grail. Now, I would love for you to share your thoughts on the idea of speaking for free, and simply share with my audience the value of speaking for free when starting out, and a few non-monetary benefits that any business owner can gain for doing so.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing to keep in mind is that unless you are already a celebrity in some other realm, you will always need to start speaking for free before you can get paid for it, right? So like, for instance, if I don't know, was a professional football player, maybe I could immediately go from never having spoken to getting $20,000 for a speech just because I'm famous. But let's assume that most of your audience is not already famous. If that is the case, then everybody starts speaking for free, and then you work your way up. And so why is that good? Well, first of all, it's good because if you want to get paid, it's a necessary step. But it's also good because pretty much no one is that good at speaking to begin with. And so, I mean, some people, have some natural talent, but you've got to hone it. You've got to practice it, and you really do get better over time. So those early days when you're speaking for free can actually be helpful because it shows you different environments, right? Like, you might be really good speaking to a small group of like 10 people, but what if you've never spoken to 100 people? That can feel really different. And so just getting that practice, or like, it can be very different speaking to people when you're up on stage and they're kind of down below as compared to everybody in these round tables around you. It's just different environments. So it gives you the chance to practice and get good so that you will be worth it when you actually do get paid for it. But some other benefits that you can accrue while you are speaking for free. Number one, where possible, is video. This can be really great. And one of the things that you can actually build in is asking, okay, well, I'll speak for free if you video it. So if they're able, whatever the conference, the event, to have a professional videographer tape you, that can be a really important asset because, again, no one is going to pay you money to speak unless you have a video reel, because they want to see with their own eyes that you can actually do a good job with it. So having that video reel, you would probably have to pay between, let's say, $500 and $1,000, maybe, just ballparking it, probably closer to 1,000, to get a good video reel. So if the client is willing to do it for you, that is a savings, and it's something that can enable you to get paid later on. And of course, early on as well, depending on the audience, you may be able to speak in front of potential clients. And so if you're able to get a multi-$1,000 coaching engagement, maybe another speaking engagement or a consulting gig out of it, then that talk is certainly well worth it.
Perfect. Now, for the members of the audience who are tuning in, and let's say they're already established as a speaker and they're looking to take that next step into starting to ascend up the Clark's Law of public speaking, please break down to those particular entrepreneurs the importance of a website and speaker demo video as they start to transition into speaking for money.
Yeah, for sure. So if there are some basic things that any conference organizer is going to want to look for, right? And your website is just at a very basic level. It's a marker of credibility, right? If you don't have a website at this point, as we're recording this in 2017, people are going to be like, why don't they have a website? Like, are they in the witness protection program? What's going on? Or did this person just start their business like 5 minutes ago? That's what they're going to wonder. It's not like you need to have a lot of expensive accoutrements to start your own business. You don't. It's not like, oh, you need like the most amazing logo, or you need to, spend a lot of money on office furniture. No, you don't. But you do need a website. You really do need a website. People look at that, and that is sort of the marker of like, okay, this is a serious professional. And a video, as we discussed before, is really important because these days, just like videos are relatively easy to come by, right? It's not like back in the old days where you'd have to have these like massive camera crews and it would cost so much money. Lots of people can film it now, and so they just don't want to take a chance. Nobody wants to book a speaker and have them be terrible and then have to explain to their boss like, oh, well, I thought he was good. And they're like, well, didn't you check? Well, no, he just, he seemed smart. Like that. They don't want to risk it, so they want to see a video. So you need to have a video.
Yes, perfect. Great insights. Now, as entrepreneurs begin to build their platform and release products and services, naturally the specter of the joint venture partnership will begin to emerge. What do you feel are some of the key elements to a successful JV relationship?
Well, if you're going to be a joint venture partner for someone, I think that probably the two most important elements are, number one, you have to have really thoroughly vetted this person, right? Because their material just reflects on you. And so if they are questionable in any way, there's two areas, either in terms of the quality of their material not being that good, or the quality of their marketing not being that good, by which I mean it doesn't look professional, or they're just like harassing people and emailing them 100 times and bothering them. None of that is going to reflect on you positively. So you have to be very careful who you ally yourself with, and you have to do a lot of due diligence first to make sure that they're doing it the right way. And the second thing, of course, is understanding what would be relevant to your audience. You ideally want it to be not a competitive product, so that it's so close that it's like the exact same thing, but you want it to be something that a buyer of your services would very logically want to have. So for instance, for me, I write a lot about, entrepreneurial side ventures. For instance, one of them is doing online courses. And so I use a platform called Thinkific for my online courses. And so I've done a couple of affiliate promotions with Thinkific where I basically just went on with people and I'm like, hey, I use Thinkific for my courses. And, if you have taken my courses, you have seen it yourself. And if you are interested in creating your own, this is one that I use and like, and they can tell you about how it works, and you can get a special bonus if you sign up right now, etc. And so that's been a very symbiotic promotion, because a lot of people who would take my courses, my Recognized Expert course, are themselves interested in running an online course. And so it's actually a benefit for them for me to suggest something. So there's a lot of folks who view it not as like a weird imposition, but actually as like, oh, thanks, I didn't know about this. This is helpful.
How important is it when an entrepreneur is just starting out and they want to, let's say they attended a joint venture conference, or someone, they watched this interview and they learn more about joint venture partnerships. How important do you feel being in alignment with the product or service that they're looking to promote is towards the overall success of that particular venture or partnership?
Well, I think the things that you promote become part of your brand too. It's sort of how people think of you. Like, oh, he's the guy that does blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's the guy that suggested blah, blah, blah to me. And it all kind of comes in and rattles around. So ideally, you want to be compiling a list for yourself, an audience for yourself of people who have clearly defined interests. They come to you for a certain reason. And so the products that you promote, it only makes sense that you would promote things that are in alignment with what those people need and want, and the tone to which they have been accustomed to hearing from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have taken you down a pathway of going from your knowledge, your skills and abilities that you possess, and starting to build the platform that will enable you to do what you love. Now, you can gain a lot of reference material from this interview, but in order to take the next step, there's only one logical step, and that is Entrepreneurial You. Now, this is not just a book on developing professional independence and building your brand. It's a master class on paper. Often, books with great suggestions will lack detail, or there'll be a collection of stories about the success of other people without a tangible connection to the target reader. Entrepreneurial You combines all elements into an easy-to-follow roadmap to go from start to establish, or a reference guide from the already established to gain insight on a specific aspect of growing your empire. Entrepreneurial You is available on all online and in bookstores near you. If you purchase Entrepreneurial You and you send me a screenshot at support@mrshadeed.com, you will receive my online course, which is Joint Venture Fundamentals for Businesses and Brands, which will take you step by step through my approach to go from zero list, zero credibility to forming partnerships with some of the big name within your industry. So it's a proven formula, and that'll be my gift to you in support of Entrepreneurial You. Dorie, you've been great in terms of providing your insight, your wisdom, and I thank you so much for your time.
Shadeed, thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I appreciate your generous offer to your audience. And I'll just mention, too, that if folks are interested in going deeper about how to monetize their own business and build multiple revenue streams, I actually do have a free giveaway. It is the 88-question Entrepreneurial You self-assessment that actually walks you through how to create multiple income streams in your business. And folks that are interested can download that for free at DorieClark.com, DorieClark.com.
Yes, it's a great assessment. I have downloaded it myself, and it will be insanely valuable for the audience. And this has been the Behind the Brand segment of Conversational Currency, where we examine the value and importance of social skills in a digital era. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to spend time with us, and for that, I thank you.